Hello, everyone. Welcome to the third lecture in the course of Literature and Globalization. In this lecture, we will talk about Disgraced, a novel written by Ayad Akhtar. If you're watching carefully on the slide, you see Ayad Akhtar photo. He wearing a black glasses, blue sweater, and a bald head. A nice-looking man. Ayad Akhtar biography. Ayad Akhtar is a first-generation Pakistani American born in New York City and raised in Milwaukee. He had previously written and starred in 2005 film The War Within, in which he portrayed the Pakistani engineering student who became a terrorist. He has studied at the Brown University and Columbia University. He had also written in 2012 novel American Dervish that we have talked about it last week, which studies the Muslim religious experience in America. The son of two foreign-born doctors, he had spent a decade exploring dual identity before writing this play. In order to write this play, Akhtar decided to write from his own experiences. He stated that at more metaphorical level to write this play, he had to turn and look over his shoulder at what he was running away from. And at that moment, there was an explosion of creativity. Disgraced was originally scheduled at the American Theatre Company in Chicago, Illinois, to run February 3rd to March 4th, 2012, with an official debut of February 6th. Eventually, the run was moved forward 1 week to January 27th to February 26th, 2012, with an official January 30th debut. On February 21, its run was extended in Chicago until March 11, 2012. It made its New York debut of its off-Broadway run at the Lincoln Center Theater with an October 22, 2012 premiere and was scheduled to run until November 18 before being extended until December 2. Hurricane Sandy caused the cancellations of October 28 and 29 evening performances, but not the October 28 afternoon stage play. On November 1, it was extended again until December 23rd. The play is centered on socio-political themes such as Islamophobia and the self-identity of Muslim American citizens. It focuses on the dinner party between four people with very different backgrounds. As discussions turns into politics and religion, the mood quickly becomes heated. Described as the play depicts racial and ethnic prejudices that secretly persist in even most progressive cultural circles. It is also said to depict the challenge for upwardly mobile Muslim Americans in the post-11 America. Productions have included performances by Asif and Eric. Plot of the novel. In the 90 minutes one-act play, lawyer Amir Kapoor and his wife Emily host an Upper East Side dinner. Amir is an American-born Muslim, raised Manhattan mergers and acquisition lawyer, while Emily is an up-and-coming artist who focuses on Islamic themes in her art. Amir has cast aside his Muslim heritage for the sake of his career and serve as Emily's muse, who has an affinity for Islamic artistic traditions. Prior to the dinner, Amir, who is on the partner track, becomes involved in a controversial case. Amir, assimilated nephew Abi, born Hussein Malik, has concern regarding the correctness of the arrest of a local imam who is imprisoned on the charges that may be trumped up of a financing terrorist supporting groups, leading Amir to question whether it is religious persecution. Emily encourages the reluctant Amir to appear in the court in support of the Imam, in an unofficial capacity that gets mentioned in the New York Times. The case becomes dinner conversation when he hosts Jory, a colleague from work, and her husband Isaac, who is Emily Jewish art dealer. In all, the dinner table assembly includes an ex-Muslim, an African American, a Jew, and a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant, dining over the topic of religious faith. The conversation touches upon Islamic and Judaic tradition, the Quran and the Talmud, racial profiling and September 11, the Taliban and Mahmoud Ahmadinejad and Benjamin Netanyahu as tension mounts. When Amir admits he felt a blush of pride on September 11 and holds secret hatred towards Israel, his friends are disgusted. Jure and Amir leave the apartment to get a bottle of champagne. It is revealed that Isaac and Emily have had an affair in the past and that he is secretly in love with her. Jory and Amir return just as Isaac is about to kiss Emily. It is revealed that the jury has been selected as a partner in the law firm over Amir, in part because of his presence at the Imam's trial, and in a rage says that he is the actual nigger at the firm and not Jory. Jory and Isaac depart. The state of their relationship, uncertain after Isaac's infidelity, has been revealed. Emily confesses her affair with Isaac and Amir beats her. Abby stumbles into the apartment and finds him standing over her. The play jumps ahead a period of time. Amir is packing his belongings and prepared to leave the apartment. Emily brings Abby over the legal advice. He was questioned by the FBI after his friend expressed a jihadist sentiment at the Starbucks. Amir warns Abby to be more cautious, but Abby flies into the fit of rage, saying that the West has disgraced Islam, but that they will take it all back one day. He storms out. Amir tries to reconcile with Emily, but she leaves. Let's talk about the cast of the play. First of all, you would like to know about the cast. What cast means is that cast means a group of actors that are performing on the stage. On November the 2nd, 2011, the Chicago cast was announced. Usman played Amir, Elena played Jory, Bezat played Abby, Beenham played Isaac, and Lee Stark played Emily. Starting with the previews of January 27, 2012, and then the official debut on January 30th. The Chicago production creative team included fight choreographer David, set designer Jack, light designer Christine, costume designer Janice, prop designer Nick, sound designer Kevin, and production stage manager Katie. Critical commentary of the novel. Charles Ishwood of the New York Times, who saw the off-Broadway production in 2012, said it was a continuously engaging, vitally engaged play that bristles with wit and intelligence and puts contemporary attitude toward religion under a microscope, revealing how tenuous self-image can be for people born into one way of being who have embraced another. Isherwood selected the play as one of his year-end 10 best plays of 2012. David Rooney of The Hollywood Reporter also selected it as among his 10 best in New York theater 2012, writing that Akhtar staked a claim as one of the boldest voices to appear on the playwriting scenes in recent years, with this stinging sweep at the fallacy of the post-racial nation. Of the Chicago production American Theater Company, Chicago Tribune Theater critics Chris John praised the show as intensely arresting. Time Out Chicago Chris called it the play a compact, stunning up punch addressing the cultural affinity of some of us are allowed to escape and those we aren't. However, Chicago Sun-Times critic Hattie noted that the play's 5 characters were all identity wrapped and the show was a minefield that feels all too deliberately booby-trapped by playwright. The play won the Jeff Award, honoring excellence in Chicago theater for the best new play in Chicago 2012. Entertainment Weekly critic Tom's Gear suggested that the ending was underdeveloped, but that the play was well executed. Akhtar packs a lot into his scenes in terms of both coincidence heavy personal drama and talkative disquisition on religion and politics, but he usually manages to pull back from the edge of the too muchness. There is an admirable restraint to director Kimberly Senior's well paced scenes. Mandwi, best known for his comedy, has a surprisingly commanding stage presence and captures the full range of his character's internal conflicts. Let's talk about the themes of the novel. National Public Radio describes the play thematically as one that tackles Islamophobia and question of Muslim American identity. Asia would note it as two couples exchange observations about faith and politics in the modern world, the intellectual tickets that they find themselves in become increasingly tangled. More specifically, he said, it is a play about thorny questions of identity and religion in the contemporary world, with an accent on provocative topic of how radical Islam and the terrorism it inspired have affected the public discourse. Kapoor has rejected his Muslim upbringing and even his surname to better assimilate into law firm, but he still feels the occasional tug of Islam. Gare wrote, Disgraced offers a engaging snapshot of the challenge for upwardly mobile Islamic Americans in the post 9/11 age. According to The Guardian's Stephen Moss, the play comes to a head as the protagonist tries to come to terms with his multiple identity, American versus Asian, Muslim versus secularist, passive observer of injustice versus activist. Although Amir has an affinity for $600 shirts with suggestively high thread counts, his home dinner party is set in his apartment, which is spare and tasteful with the subtle flourishes of the Orient. During interview following the Pulitzer announcement, Akhtar said that the play's title has both a literal and metaphorical meaning. Literally, Amir plays out his disgrace in almost real time before the audience. Metaphorically, Akhtar says there are ways that the colonial history of the West is still playing out in the Muslim world. The events that comprise that history, a disgrace of native peoples, as it were, is still very much a part of our contemporary movement. Let's do some analysis of the novel. Unsettling is perhaps the word that best describes playwright Ayad Akhtar Disgraced. The intensity of the scene provoked uncomfortable shuffling in seats and reduced one audience members to tears. The Pulitzer Prize winning play, featured by Arena Stage in Washington until May 29, should be commended for its bold attempt to tackle one of the most complex and sensitive issues dominating today's political discourse, Islam and identity. With the presidential candidate declaring prohibition of Muslim entry into the United States a key policy platform, Disgraced offers a snapshot into the microcosmic impact such policies and political rhetoric have on the daily lives of American Muslims. The play is centered on Amir Kapoor, a left Muslim, and his wife and Emily, who battle over their conflicting perceptions of Islam. Each character is deeply rooted in their respective possession, Amir maintaining a hostile, radical view of Islam, while Emily forming a moderate, appreciative stance, and spend a significant portion of the play attempting to convince the other of the true Islam. Their tension is worsened by Amir's extremist leaning young nephew, Abby, and Emily's Jewish art dealer Isaac, who serves as a provocateur in drawing out Amir's deepest and darkest opinion on issues related to the political Islam. A climax is reached towards the end when Amir and Emily host a dinner party for Isaac and his wife, and Amir's colleague Juri. No taboo remains as the dinner party descends into an explosive argument over Islam, Israel, and 9/11. Akhtar presents two stark choices many Western Muslims are facing when confronting with the hostility adopted by the likes of Donald Trump. Retreat. As portrayed by lead protagonist characters Amir Kapoor's self-loathing, radicalized as per his nephew Abi, a selected ordinary alternative to his birth name Hussein Malik. Any attempts to establish a middle ground fervently and perhaps naively pursued by Emily are snuffed out by the polling power of the opposing extreme on the spectrum. Indeed, such a portrayal has a resonance in the current pressure experienced by Western Muslims and aptly captures the struggle of moderate Islam to have its voice heard amid the noise of extremism originating from both sides. Emily's well-intentioned campaign to have Amir reconciled with his heritage and her ultimate and spectacular failure is an intuitive representation of the ongoing struggle between the rational and extreme interpretation of Islam. Emily's insistence on portraying Islam as a religion steep in a history of culture, scientific and spiritual excellence, and innovation is loudly and violently opposing by her husband's stubborn refusal to see Islam as nothing more than a collection of outdated, backward ideas that promote savagery. The gap between Emily and Amir is a snapshot into a broader struggle of competing interpretation of Islam, deviating from the moderate that appreciate Islam's contribution to science and culture, to the more radical Puritan and politicized understanding. This representation extends to the character's divergent persona Emily, a calm, articulate individual who argues her point with reason and persuasion, and Amir, a bitter man who can only express his views through volcanic fits of rage. The separation is so severe that it ultimately destroys their marriage, with Amir resorting to violence and striking his wife as an act that drew the immediate shock and denial from the audience. The play ends with their official separation, a powerful damnation by Akhtar that moderate and radical Islam are irreconcilable. An audience member in the post-show conversation criticized the playwright for including the scenes of domestic violence, believing it false link to the act to some inherent Muslim behavior, given Amir in a previous scenes alluded to a passage in the Quran that potentially condones a husband striking his wife. Indeed, Akhtar toyed with controversies by allowing for such a predictable interpretation. However, if the Emily Amir dispute is concluded as one between the forces of moderate and radical Islam, then violence is by no means a foreign language. In fact, violence is the only means in which those who hold extreme views of Islam, as Amir is revealed to share through his sympathetic views on 9/11 attacks, can effectively communicate their message, confronted by the rational perspective of Islam and the radical viewpoint struggle as Amir did. Akhtar draws out, perhaps predictably so, as noted by several audience members post-show, the implicit biases that fuel the divergent opinions of Isaac, Jewish, and Jory, African American, despite all sharing a similar professional and socio-economic status. This contention reached a high point during the characters' debate over Israel, and Isaac's allegiance to Israel versus Amir's silent wishes to have Israel wiped off the map. Tempers flared further when Amir expressed sympathy for 9/11 attacks, to which jury reminded Amir that you are an American, implying a duty to his national identity. The juxtaposition between transitional religion and national identities and the resulting tension, irrespective of a title or color, are laid simple. While the play is primarily focused on the competing interpretations of the set of values associated with Islam and the sense of duty associated with being a believer to the religion, Akhtar properly reminds us through Jury's American remarks to Amir that national identity also contains its set of socially constructed values and expects a form of allegiance not dissimilar to religion. Disgrace exposes the complexity that arises when nationalism and religion contradict in particular circumstances and compete for the allegiance of their presumed subjects. Amir's internal struggle exemplifies the incompatibility of these two imaginative forces when the inherent values and biases are in conflict. Akhtar could have played this out further by exploring a similar competition of identities within Isaac with regards to his views on Israel, or demonstrated through a deeper probe of Emily's appreciation for Islam that such allegiances are not fixed but malleable. But the question Disgrace poses is evident. Is there any priority in order of nationalism and religion, and thus our national and religious identities? Is Amir wrong to prioritize what he perceives to be allegiance to the political Islamic viewpoint over that of his country, the United States? Does Isaac's transitional identity, Judaism, come before or after his national identity, American, when it comes to the question of Israel? That the play ends inconclusively, with the lives of all four characters seemingly in confusion, suggests these questions were designed to be answered beyond the theater. Assignments. Question 1. Is there priority in the order of nationalism and religion, and thus our national and religious identities? Question 2. Is Amir wrong to prioritize what he perceives to be allegiance to a political Islamic viewpoint over that of his home country, the United States? Question 3. Does Isaac's transitional identity, Judaism, come before or after his national identity, American, when it comes to question of Israel? Answer these three questions. Each question answer should be consist of 500 words. So 500 plus 500 plus 500 make it 1,500 words. And that is how we come to the end of this lecture. Talk to you next week. Bye for now.